How do I look?
Like a jester. Like a cute one.
Am I a pretty jester?
Looks like you're flipping people off with your phone finger when it's the other way.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Team Morale Podcast. We do our three favorite things: talk a little bit of booze, a little bit of beer, and a whole lot of basketball.
And a whole lot of football. What's happening this week, Ethan?
Oh my gosh, ladies and gentlemen, the NFL season is finally upon us. And as you can see on YouTube by my getup, I am clearly not a Steelers fan.
If you are listening to this on Spotify, later go on and just look at the first 1 minute of this podcast, because you gotta see what Ethan is rocking. He is head to toe in yellow and black. You are wearing the colors of my least favorite thing in the world, which is a bee, and I don't like it.
Black and gold, baby. I love the Steelers. Monumental Steeler fan. Don't get me wrong. Soft spot always for my Mavericks, but the Steelers are where I live and die. I love the NBA and I love the NFL, so I'm very excited to have kickoff, just a few days away. Cannot wait for it. And we've got a very fun twist on today's podcast.
Yeah, we do. So what we have decided, because we're in the prime of the basketball season, right? Lots of things happening. So what we have decided is we're going to make the comparisons between the basketball realm and the football realm, bring them together, and what are the comps that we can make between our two leagues.
Yeah, and when you say the world of basketball has had a lot happening, I think the Cavs signed a guard that I've never heard of. And
yes.
I think that was the highlight of the week.
The Cavs making big moves lately.
Yeah, they signed their third or fourth string point guard, and that is the biggest move that has been made so far this week. So clearly a lot going on in the NBA to talk about. So today's podcast just all about the comps between the NFL and the NBA, and we cannot wait to show it to you.
Yes, and I am so excited to get into that. But before we get into that, I think we should talk about our drink of the night. What is it? It is the not very popular, I'm sure you've never heard of it, sponsored by the NFL, Bud Light. Here, I'm going to crack it open right here.
The official beer of the NFL.
Bang. Bang. Perfect timing.
One of the greatest ad campaigns I've ever seen with the Bud Light. Just
for real.
All sorts of tomfoolery and hilarity coming out of their commercials, and they love themselves some football.
Yes, they really do. All right. Small little background on Bud Light. So originally started, so Ethan's going to try to sneakily take his hat off there. Good call. It's a good call.
Well, it has bells on it. It has bells on it, and I'm realizing I'm hearing them, so I gotta.
It's Christmas season out here. All right, so Bud Light, originally created by Anheuser-Busch Brewing Company, which the original thing that they had was Budweiser, which was the best-selling beer from the 1950s for a long time. But then they started losing a lot of their target audience. And then they introduced Bud Light in 1984. And when they introduced Bud Light, they wanted to go with you could still be tough, you can still be a man and drink light beer with less calories, which was starting to become bang.
I would try to do that timing with you could still be a man and drink light beer because I'm a man who drinks light beer.
Yes, you are. Yes, we both are. Every college kid in the world is now. Anyways, they introduced Bud Light at the perfect time in 1984, and right as the late 80s and early 90s hit, people were really getting into the fitness and low-calorie thing. And Bud Light pushed you can still be a man and you can still drink beer, and it quickly rose to be the best-selling light beer and the best-selling beer in not only America but in the entire world. We still know what it is today. It is the official beer of the NFL. It's even got a logo on it. Little NFL beer logo on it. But yeah, it's Bud Light. It's Bud Light.
Yeah, it's Bud Light.
Bud Light is what it is.
For those listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts where you don't see us, we've got a couple of tall boys with us that's got all NFL'd out, and we'll, I guess, break down the taste a little bit later.
We'll do our best.
You know what? We won't break down the taste. We'll talk about some of our favorite Bud Light commercials.
Okay.
That's what we'll do during the break, is we'll revisit some of our favorite Bud Light commercials or other fun Bud Light commercials. Let's crack into these comparisons a little bit.
Let's do it.
We've got some fun ones. And honestly, we're starting off strong with probably the two GOATs going head to head. And by that, not really going to head to head, just we're comparing the two of them, but the Tom Brady of the NBA.
It's LeBron, right? It's LeBron. So I'm going to add a little caveat right off the start because some people think Jordan is the greatest of all time in basketball. That being said, Jordan did not have a career similar to Brady. LeBron had a career similar to Brady.
The length of their dominance
Yeah.
has when you reach like the near 20 decade mark of dominating a sport, you reach GOAT territory.
Mm-hmm.
And when Brady came into the league, a 6th-round pick, came out of nowhere and just decided, hey, I'm gonna be good at this fucking game, and just came in and kicked ass. LeBron kind of did the same thing, except they kind of came about it a little differently. LeBron was very highly recruited, one of the greatest high school basketball players this world has ever seen. And Brady was like a lowly recruited kid. He did go to Michigan. He did play well at Michigan, but he was a 6th-round pick.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it is funny. It's like two different versions of the American dream, right? One version is LeBron's where you just show up and you're just so much better than everyone and you just kick ass your entire life, and then you work really, really hard and you get even better and you become like one of the GOATs. Brady, on the other hand, obviously, I mean, you got to be good enough to go play to Michigan, right?
I mean, he wasn't
not a scrub.
Yeah.
Oh, jinx. Yeah. So he's not horrible, right? But he does, like, he goes in the later rounds. We've seen the pictures of Tom Brady coming out of college. It doesn't exactly
scrawny white dude.
It doesn't exactly inspire me to go to the gym, right? I'm just like, oh, if that guy can do it, I can do anything, right? But he shows up, he gets drafted late, he works hard, puts the effort in, becomes a starting quarterback, goes and wins some Super Bowls, marries a supermodel, becomes the most famous guy ever, is what the greatest quarterback ever to play football. I mean, how is that not the American dream? But there's like two different versions of the American dream, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. The like parody yet not parody between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like both of them, I feel like are always one step ahead of their opponent, like mentally. Like LeBron and Brady
100%.
both play so smart, and you know Brady's quick twitch to get the ball out in like 0.00 whatever seconds is unheard of. And then LeBron's ability to just drive down the lane and be able to put up these crazy, you know, floaters / layups / dunks. Like they both have like, don't get me wrong, raw skill that's incredible, but both of their like mentality and like mental approach to the game is what sets them apart.
That IQ, the cerebral like ness of both of those guys, that's what sets both of them apart. That's what makes them to go. Obviously, you got to have those physical attributes that help make you the GOAT, but it's definitely the mental way that they both go about it. So Brady and LeBron, that's our very first NFL NBA comp.
Yeah, and I want to say one more thing on LeBron before we move on to our next thing here is like we're saying GOAT, we're saying, you know, LeBron versus MJ, I'm sure is a conversation that we're going to get roasted on for. We're not saying LeBron is the greatest player ever. I'm saying, and I think Mitchell would agree with me here, that he probably had the greatest NBA career ever.
Yes.
His career will go down as the greatest NBA career of all time. That being said, the LeBron MJ like debate still a very hot topic.
You never know. Maybe one day we'll just have an entire podcast dedicated to the MJ LeBron debate. But yes, I think that MJ was the most dominant, had the best prime. I think LeBron had the best career, which matches more of what Brady was.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Brady is the GOAT.
Yes,
but
there's
Brady
is
a debate in the NBA. There's not a debate in the NFL. Brandon Hatfield at me, you son of a bitch. All right.
I hope he hears this.
Moving on to two guys who, you know, use their brains a lot to dominate the sport, their respective sports, right? We're going to two new guys who are just freaks of nature. Just absolute athletic craziness. Bouncing out of the gym, super strong, super fast. And I'm going to give you the NFL player and you're going to give me the NBA comparison. Okay. I'm saying the most athletic, the craziest athlete in the NFL right now is DK Metcalf.
My boy.
The wide receiver from the Seattle Seahawks, a absolute Greek god.
Of a person.
Just like, you know, tall, fast, strong, athletic. Just
everything, the whole package.
Freak. The play that he had last year where it went viral, where Russell Wilson. Wow, Russell Wilson threw.
Dude,
an
I actually do
interception.
that a lot. It really bothers me because it's
Yeah.
like my favorite player, my least favorite player, and they're way too like close to each other. And I hate when I mistake them.
But Russell Wilson throws a pick around the end zone, and the guy who picked it off, Buda Baker, has like a walk-in touchdown. Like it's an 80-yard touchdown, but there's no one between him and the end zone. And DK Metcalf comes out of left field. I think his top speed was like 23 miles an hour.
Yeah, dude.
Or something crazy like that. Just flies into the screen, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm watching either like the Terminator or some alien. Like it is wild how fast he's able to move.
Yeah, dude. Mofo was hauling ass. So the comp that we are making for DK Metcalf in the NBA is none other than the other Greek god, the other guy who has this physical stature and athletic ability unlike anyone else in the NBA right now, Zion Williamson. And I feel like it's fair.
Yeah, I mean, both have athletic genes that are unmatched.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Both these guys are just absolutely. I mean, we're just talking about like guys who show up. I mean, the mental side of the game, obviously, these guys have to be smart and know how to play their sports, right? But they don't have to. They could just walk onto the court, walk onto the field, and just be better than you because their bodies are better than yours.
Yeah, it is crazy their ability to just out athletic people. Like Zion gets in the paint and he's 6'6" and is just able to jump and dunk over anybody. And then you throw a jump ball in DK Metcalf's wheelhouse, he has like a catch radius of like a 2-car garage.
Yeah, dude, I saw that. So, in all fairness, I am a huge Seahawks fan. I got to throw that out there since you're wearing all your Steelers. I didn't know we were wearing our gear tonight. I would have worn my Seahawks jersey. But DK Metcalf, I mean, obviously, aside from like Russ, is like my favorite Seahawk right now. I love that dude. He is so much fun to watch. And he's like, on any given play, can just be so electric. I feel like you got to see Zion the exact same way where every single time down the court, it could be a top 10 play every single time. You'd have no idea because they're like that explosive.
Yeah, it going on DK Metcalf here. It takes real athletic ability and just real raw talent to go viral as a receiver for making a tackle.
Yeah, right.
Like when you make a tackle as a receiver on an interception and you go viral, that's wild. That is absolutely bonkers.
It really makes Russell look a lot better when your receiver gets the highlight for getting the tackle and everyone forgets about the pick in the first place.
Yeah, I was gonna say because the guy caught it like on in his own 5-yard line. The Seahawks were about to score.
Yeah,
and Buda Baker picks off this pass and it's just like him in the end zone. Is all he got to do is like he's got a 10-yard head start and outrun everybody. And DK Metcalf comes out of left field and just hauls ass and just ruins Buda Baker's day. I remember they interviewed Buda Baker at some point later in the season. He's like, dude, I just started hearing footsteps and just started freaking out. And then you have Zion, who literally you can like throw lobs to Zion like he's 7'5". You can get it that high in the air. I mean, that guy like hits his head on the rim.
Oh yeah. I mean, he literally hit it on the backboard.
Yeah,
when he was in college.
At his height, he hits his head on the rim. He was so athletic, he just burst through his shoe one time.
Oh yeah.
He was so much like power in his legs. He just went to plant and his shoe couldn't handle it and just like exploded.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
wild.
It is. Both those guys are just. I mean, we said it once. We said it 1,000 times. Like these guys are just absolutely freaks, and that's why we thought. I think that is one of our more apt comparisons, honestly, throughout this entire thing. It's really fun because it's rare that you have one guy in the league that is just like, yeah, that dude's just bigger and more athletic than everyone else in the league is, because they're in these leagues that are of the biggest and most athletic people in America. And yet you can point to one guy and be like, yeah, he is bigger and more athletic than everyone else. And to have DK and Zion in, both very young, both like growing and going to be amazing players as they get older, is pretty fun.
And speaking of like the biggest, we have an absolute deep dive for our next one. Again, I'm going to give you this time actually I'm going to give you the NBA player and you're going to give me the NFL comparison this time.
All right.
But we are going with just two giants.
The behemoths.
The biggest guys that their sport has to offer. And in the NBA, there is one guy that comes to mind. He is beloved by almost all the fans in the NBA. And is it Boban Marjanovic? I wish it was, but he is bested by one man when it comes to just sheer size. and that is one Taco Fall.
It's raining tacos. Gotta love Taco Fall, man.
I mean, I think he's 7'5", 7'6".
Yeah, he's on the 7'5", 7'6", like borderline.
He's somewhere in there, but he is just massive.
Oh, dude, he's the tallest guy. So the fun thing I think about when it comes to like the comparison of NFL and NBA is the NBA is the tallest men in the world, right? We get these 7'5" crazy dudes. Like we get like a 7'3", 4" like Boban every once in a while. We get 7'3" Porzingises every once in a while. Like we get these like crazy tall guys. Like I heard a stat one time that was like 25% of 7-footers in the world end up playing in the NBA at some point.
It's actually right around that 20-25%.
Yeah.
It ranges based on how many people end up hitting that in a given year, but generally they do it year by year. I know what stat you're talking about, and it's generally 20 to 25% of all 7-footers on the planet at one time are in the NBA.
Yeah. So on the other spectrum, in the NFL, we see the largest, the thickest, the heaviest,
The
thickums of the world. Because like in the NBA, honestly, I think there's only one guy in the NBA right now that actually reaches over 300 pounds. It might be two now between Boban and Taco. But in the NFL, it's a little more common.
I was about to say each team probably has
at least one.
No, more than that. 7, 8 guys.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all offensive
offensive
linemen are
over
generally 300 plus. So you have each NFL team has at least 6, 7, 8 guys breaking that 300-pound barrier. But there's one man who stands apart, and that guy's name is
Trent Brown. Bang. Offensive tackle for the New England Patriots. This man is 6'8", and the NBA, not that tall, right? He might be a power forward.
He might be playing small forward.
Yeah.
Well, maybe small ball center if he wants to.
But let me hit you with this. 380 pounds. 380 pounds. That is top 5 all time in the NFL.
That is a bowling ball with legs.
Oh my gosh.
Except he's not. He's 6'8".
That's so big.
That is wild.
Does he even block, or does he just stand there and it takes like 10 minutes to run around him?
Oh my God. But again, he can't be that big around because he's that tall. Because the average NFL offensive lineman is probably in that like 6'5" to 6'6" range-ish.
Yeah.
He is 6'8". So he's got, at least 3 to 2 inches on everybody he plays against. And he is 380 pounds.
Oof. Oh, yeah, man. Trent Brown.
What does that guy's average dinner look like?
So, you know what's funny is I've seen and heard of this. NFL linemen, when they retire, lose a bunch of weight because they've actually been like eating so many calories to keep their weight up and up and up because it's like good for them as an offensive lineman. And then when they finally like do retire, they eat like a normal person. They actually lose weight.
That actually is pretty common. It's wild. The guy, like a lot of these guys who are in the NFL have like either they like have a team chef that kind of helps them with their dieting, or they're well off enough to have their own chef. And the amount of food that these guys put down in a day is wild.
Oh yeah, dude. The average dinner for him probably looks like a Rock cheat day. Have you seen those?
Oh my God, when he's got like
a million pancakes,
like sushi rolls or something like that. Dude, what I would give to just look like The Rock and be able to eat 275 sushi rolls, man.
Oh yeah, dude. That's an expensive dinner, man. That's an expensive. But yes, those are. For us, obviously the two behemoths of the NBA. I mean, the NBA has had some taller guys. The NFL has had some heavier guys. But in today's NBA and today's NFL, both of them are top 5 all time in size.
I was about to say, I feel like Taco is probably top 5 tallest player in NBA history.
We would have to look. There's some like really, really like random obscure dudes that don't make it at all. Like Asim Bular was 7'5", and I can guarantee most of the people listening to this don't know who he is, but he like played like half a season with the Kings. Type of thing. So I'm sure there's a lot of like random dudes that kind of like tinkered in and out just because
I guess he might be one of the top 5 like tall guys that actually made a career a little bit, because he's going on year 3 this year.
Yeah, he's going on
his second team, year 3.
We had Yao.
Yao was up there.
Yao's the best of the guys that are like 7'5" and taller.
Yeah, Yao was probably up there.
Sean Bradley was like 7'4". Boban 7'3".
Boban 7'4". So I mean, and he's had a 9-year NBA career, 8-9 years.
That's really good.
That's actually pretty good for a guy
fucking running around up and down a court at
Just
7'4"
being
for
nice to
9
people.
years. It sounds
Just
like
being
a
the
lot.
most lovable man in the history of the world. Actually, a team morale bid extended to him. We're waiting to hear back from you, Boban.
We are
I don't know if your invitation got lost in the mail or something, but we're waiting to hear back.
It got thrown into his junk mail, I think.
Upsetting. Anyways, we've got a deep dive coming up here for our next comparison, and
Another one.
Yeah, another one. But this one's a true deep dive. The last one was like we just found the two biggest guys in each sport and said they're the same. These guys are. It took a real deep dive, and these guys are two guys that are the best for their position in their sport at something they shouldn't be good at.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna hit you with the NFL guy first. Right.
That's fair.
Because I wanna talk about my team a little bit more. I gotta talk about my Seahawks. I gotta talk about my Jamal Adams, who, as a safety, does not know how to intercept the ball at all, but is one of the best pass rushers and one of the best sackers in the entire NFL at the position of safety, which you just do not see at all, which is why we paid him. But I'd be nice to see like one interception, just one.
Yeah, he is I think top 5 or 7 all time in sacks by a secondary player, and all those guys played like 10 plus years in the NFL, and I think he's on year like 6 or 5. So he's like he's on pace to destroy
that record.
The record by most sacks by a secondary player. My guy is also on pace to destroy a record, and that is one John Wall, because he is the best shot blocking guard in the history of the NBA. Is he number 1 right now? No, Jason Kidd's got him beat by about 20 blocks or so.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as he gets a couple blocks, like he's going to destroy the record, because you get 20 blocks in a year kind of as a guard you get one every couple of games here or there. He averaged over a block a game like several times in his career.
And mind you, we did not see John Wall for 2 full years of his prime, right? Like, John Wall should have already destroyed this record. The dude has got 221 blocks on his career, and that is just absolutely wild. Now, the fact that he's only 20 blocks shy of Jason Kidd, that shows that he would have already destroyed this record if he had played those 2 seasons full.
Yeah, and he's got over 20 blocks over the next closest active guard, which is another defensive stalwart in Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
So Drew Holiday is no slouch himself defensively, and Drew Holiday has played several more years in the league than John Wall has.
Mm-hmm.
And John Wall has still got him beat by 20. He is an absolute menace when it comes to blocking shots, and it's something he kind of takes pride in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's like John Wall's another one of those dudes who's like a freak athlete and has always been a freak athlete, and was not only known as one of the fastest players in the entire NBA, but like crazy explosive, always had the hops. But if there's entire YouTube clips you can go back and watch of John Wall just blocks, like just a John Wall blocks highlight clip, and they are so much fun to watch, because he will straight up go up to guys who are like big time dunkers of the NBA and just rise up with them right in front of them and like stuff them. Like, a lot of them are from behind, but a lot of them are just like right in your face blocks.
Yeah, and that takes some balls
as
a guard.
Big time.
Because no one wants to get postered, right? No one wants to, be like on SportsCenter top 10 on the other end, just getting yammed on. But John Wall, like, not only believes in himself enough, but just like has the balls to go up there and just be like, yeah, you're not dunking over me. Just like Jamal Adams goes in there amongst the absolute boulders and trees of the offensive linemen and it's like, dude, these guys could eat me for breakfast if they want, but I'm going to get in there. I'm going to use my speed. I'm going to use my explosion, get around these offensive linemen who are, again, outweigh him by probably 100 pounds, some of them.
Yep.
And can get around them and get to the quarterback. 2 guys that are just very, very, very talented in what they do when most of the players that play their position aren't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a part of it is got to have that freak athleticism, like we've talked about a lot on this podcast, and a part of it is picking your spots, right? It's
opportunistic.
Opportunistic, yes,
for sure.
I'm pretty sure that obviously John Wall, because basketball is such a free-flowing game, that when he sees the opportunity for a block, whether it's a chase down block, whether he sees someone that he thinks that he can out jump that's going up to the rim, he's going to go and take that opportunity. It's probably a little bit harder in the NFL with Jamal Adams, where it's like you have such set defensive schemes. But I'm sure that he has a very green light to when he like sees something happening and he sees like a hole's about to open, that he is going to like go and just like attack that, because that's what he is so good at. He's better at playing honestly in the backfield than he is playing like actually in the deep secondary.
Yeah, I mean, you also got to like earn that green light. I mean,
No,
you got to earn like the trust in your coach to be like, all right, well, we're gonna play a safety down because this guy's gonna go get us a sack right here. Like that's not necessarily something that like they give, like coaches give to like random defenders. You have to earn that green light. Let's move on. Let's do one more here before we take a break. We're gonna compare. This one's like a double header almost, because there's two teams and their respective coaches that are very, very, very similar and have very, very similar like trajectories almost, and have very similar career paths. And I'm just going to say them right here. That is one, the New England Patriots going along with the San Antonio Spurs. And by the coaches, I mean Greg Popovich and Bill Belichick.
Yeah, no, it's really fun to see. Both teams are great all-time teams. They won several championships and very rarely would win back-to-back. The Spurs never won. Did the Patriots ever win back-to-back?
I don't think so.
I don't think they did.
I don't think they did.
Which is pretty wild for both teams to dominate in a certain era for a long time, both of them for a very, very long time, both with the same coach throughout the entirety of it, both with the same star player for the entirety of it, and never to win like a back-to-back. Like, that is pretty wild. And it's probably a little bit more like we see a lot of like dynasties happen in the NBA. Happens a little bit less in football because it's a little more parity. It's a little harder to go and win a Super Bowl when it's not a 7-game series type of thing. But to see the parallels between Belichick and Pop and the Bills and the Patriots is kind of weird.
Yeah, and both of them are like now dealing with the fallout of their stars leaving, and are dealing with the ability that like they're having to struggle for the first time in a long time.
That first rebuild
That being
in like 20
said,
years.
like I love the fact that nobody makes media members quake quite like Bill Belichick and Greg Popovich do. Greg Popovich is famous for it, but Bill Belichick is no slouch when it comes to making media members just look like idiots.
Oh, both of them love a good like comeback on the media, and both of them. So Popovich's like main thing was especially like the halftime, like the timeout questions, and a lot of that was with Craig Sager for like a long time, and he would always just like try to make the guy sound as dumb as he possibly could. And Belichick does the exact same thing in those post-game press conferences.
Yeah, Pop does it with a little bit more flair than Belichick does. Belichick does it by being just so monotone and like, I could care
like
less
stern.
what you have to say.
Yeah.
Type of thing, where Pop is like, you could tell is analyzing everything you're saying, is just looking for a way to make you look stupid. That being said, both are very, very good at making people like Mitch and I look stupid.
Yeah, they kind of make our job a little bit harder. Because
they're on the blacklist for media members for sure. Don't get me wrong, they do it in a loving way. But when you see a guy go to interview someone, like interview with someone like Pop or Bill Belichick, they are checking their notes. They're making sure all their facts are right. They're making sure their question is worded just right, because if one slip up and they snap at you, like it's over.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember several times where like a courtside reporter goes up to Pop. They're like, "Okay, so what would you like to see more of in your defense tonight?" He's like, "Well, I'd like to stop them from scoring points more. Thank you." End of interview. Like walks away. It's like, okay, good interview. That was Greg Popovich.
Or the classic, like, hey, what do you need to do more on offense to get a win in the second half? It's like, score more points than them.
Pause.
Thanks. Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time. I'm going to go sit in the corner and cry now.
No, those are both all-time great coaches, several championships. The leaders, I mean, it's hard to say that the Spurs are ever as good as the Spurs ever become without Pop. It's hard to say that the Patriots ever become the Patriots without Bill Belichick. It's because obviously you got Tom Brady, you got Tim Duncan, but I think that those guys are such a pinnacle, like such important part of what those teams did in their dynasties. That's such a weird like comparison that's like so like apt between the two.
Yeah, they're very perfect. Both will be on the Mount Rushmore of coaches for their respective sports. Like you can't talk about NBA coaches without talking about Pop, and you can't talk about, NFL coaches without talking about Bill. Let's take a break here. Let's revisit this Bud Light a little bit.
All right. I'm going to take a sip of it real quick just to see if I think it tastes like a light beer.
It is the light beer.
It's a light beer, that's for sure. So Bud Light, I don't know if we've done a whole lot of just straight up light beers, like a Bud Light.
I don't think we've done any just straight up light beer. We've done a lot of cervezas and a lot of Mexican lagers, but I don't think we've done like a straight up just light beer like this before.
Yeah, so something like a Bud Light reminds me of a good old fashioned shotgun at a tailgate.
I was gonna say water.
We're drinking it cold, which might be an issue. We having a nice lukewarm Bud Light really reminds you of game day.
You're at the tailgate. You're like, crap. The game's about to start. You're out in the parking lot and you're thinking about, I got to get into this game. I got to get to my seat in time. I got time for one more beer. So you grab it as you're walking towards the stadium. You're trying to get through it, but it's been sitting in the cooler for a little bit too long. And so you're just like, this is just not what I needed. And you're already a little bit tipsy. So you're, not stumbling, but you're walking quickly. And the line that you're walking on is a little wobbly. And it just, as you go, it's just becoming difficult to drink. And then when you get to the end, you get to right where you're about to go into the stadium, you're like, crap, I got half of this thing left. So you stand next to the trash can and you chug the whole rest of it.
You're not letting any of that
none
warm
of that
light
precious
beer
light beer can go to waste. So then you throw it in the trash can and let out one more little burp a little bit before you stumble into the stadium and you're ready to watch some football. I've never done that once in my life.
You just described every tailgate I've ever been to my entire life. Yeah, okay, so Bud Light, I would rank Bud Light in the higher echelon of light beers for me personally. I always think of Bud Light in that. I think of Coors Light in that. Fun fact, Yuengling just came to Texas. I know that this is random, but Yuengling was not allowed in Texas for a long, which is another light beer if you didn't know. Just came to Texas and people made a big deal of it. They're like, oh, I would drive to Oklahoma or Louisiana just to get a case of Yuengling. And I tried it the other day. I was like, oh yeah, it tastes like every other light beer I've ever had. Thank you. I'm glad that you would go way out of your way to get this.
Oh my gosh. And to talk about what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, some of the best commercials ever. The ones where the Bud Light or the Bud Knight didn't get invited to the party and he's trying to get in and that whole thing. That one's hilarious. Him saving, many tailgates is hilarious. Just their Bud Knight campaign for 1 year Halloween, every guy in the world wanted to be the Bud Knight, just hilarity.
So one of my personal favorite Bud Knight ones, I'm pretty sure this is a Bud Knight thing. So it was they're directly went against Coors. And it was their castle versus the Coors castle. And they went to the Coors castle well, why is yours better? Why ours is cold? Everybody's is cold. It's is that it? They're yeah. It's okay, well, ours is still better for sure. I was I love when one product just says calls out another product in their commercial in the Super Bowl directly is a big FU to them.
Yeah. Definitely a Super Bowl classic commercial. It's not as classic as the Budweiser Clydesdales.
Yeah.
But that being said, there are due for at least one, if not two, just bangers in the Super Bowl.
Dude, I'm already excited for the Super Bowl. The games are just starting this week, but I love the first couple weeks. I love the entire NFL, but just having the NFL come back gets me excited about the Super Bowl again. It's a holiday.
See, I love the Super Bowl, but I'm also it's always bittersweet because I'm damn it, that
the Steelers aren't in.
Well, yeah, that. But actually, hold on here. 2008, my ass. Anyways,
Steelers were Seahawks. We'll have to make it happen this year.
It always makes me a little bittersweet because I'm damn. That's the last football game I'm going to watch for 6 months.
It's true. That is true. It is a bittersweet moment like that.
Yeah. Anyways, speaking of football, because, we're talking football.
Great transition.
Let's talk about some fans here.
Okay.
We're going to do a little bit of fan comparison. And I'm just going to say it. Cowboy fans are kind of the worst.
Name the other one.
Laker fans are
kind of the worst.
Kind of the worst.
They are the worst. They are. So
Edison, Big Mike, listen up here, guys. Y'all are the worst.
Y'all are the worst. And all of our friends here in Dallas that are Cowboys fans, y'all are the worst, okay? But so Ethan and I were going back and forth a lot on this earlier, where they kind of like they're the worst in different ways, right? Where it's like, what's your thing with the Cowboys fans?
So again, I grew up a Laker fan, so I don't necessarily have an affinity for them, but I kind of understand the Laker mentality a little bit. And the thing with the Lakers is Laker fans are just overly cocky, right? They're just super cocky. But they kind of back it up a little bit, whereas Cowboy fans are just overly cocky and you haven't been good in 30 years.
Okay,
Okay,
hold on.
A lot of you have never seen you guys win a playoff game. And yet you guys still walk around with the biggest dicks in the NFL. And like, we're America's team. And it's like, America wins wars. So you guys should try winning some games sometime.
Okay. So I personally think that when the Lakers were going on their like decade-long drought of not making the playoffs and being bad, they were still just as cocky. They were running around being like, "Oh, we're the Lakers. Like, don't worry. Like, we'll just have someone show up and like save our franchise. We don't need to draft well or like develop anything. Like, we're just gonna be saved someday. It's like it's cool. Like, we're great."
And that's where the difference I think lies, in my opinion, is the Lakers fans are at least good enough to be like, "Oh, we're not gonna win this year, but someone will come save us." Cowboys could be 1-14, and they're like, "Super Bowl, baby, we're going." And it's like, dude, you're already out of the playoffs. Like, nope, we're America's team. We're going.
So I will concede both fan bases are two of the worst when it comes to bandwagons. You see bandwagons, whether good or bad. Cowboys fans are kind of like whether they're good or they're bad, like they kind of like stick as like Cowboy fans, but
because they're delusional.
Yeah, a little bit. They haven't been good in a long time, but Lakers fans is like you just see so many bandwagon fans, and it's like so many guys that was like there's a lot that were delusional and were like, "Oh, like we are amazing, we're gonna be amazing, we're the Lakers, like it's just a matter of time." And then once they are good, then like all of the like real quote unquote real Laker fans start showing up out of the woodwork. Like I could go off on both these fan bases for like hours. I don't really like either of the fan bases, but that's why they're the comps.
Yeah, that's
right?
why I put them together, because all the other teams' fans in the respective sports can all agree like, fuck those guys.
Yeah.
Because that being said, both those teams are both really good. I mean, the Cowboys have 5 Super Bowls. That's second, they're with a couple of other teams that's second all time behind my Steelers. So suck it. And then the Lakers are, second all time in NBA banners that they've risen.
Yeah.
There it is.
You got it wrong twice.
Thanks.
Don't worry, it's on record. And I'm glad that you said second, because some people think that they're first, but I also don't count their Minneapolis Laker banners.
Yeah, we don't need to get into all of that because that gets a way longer of a podcast than we need to.
Just get into Laker fans, and I start ranting. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I have a hard time. You and the Cowboys fans too.
Lakers, Cowboys fans at us. Anyways,
At us.
both those fan bases the worst. Let's move on to another fun one here, which is 2 defensive stalwarts in their respective sports. Probably the two best defenders in the respective sports, and I'm talking about one Aaron Donald and Rudy Gobert.
And it's fun because it's another kind of duo that goes about it in a different way, right? Where it's like Rudy Gobert is just kind of like a mammoth human that has gotten the fundamentals of center defense down so well, where it's like he just locks down the paint. You have to figure out another way to score against the Jazz because you're not going to score in the paint. Aaron Donald, on the other hand, has done it like through like speed and athleticism by just like taking over offensive lines, where it's like he is such a problem with you or for you as a team. But both players make you game plan for them. Like you have to specifically game plan against both of those players when you play those teams.
Yeah, when you're playing Rudy Gobert, you've got to, you're living and dying by the 3 that day, because you're not scoring layups, you're not getting in the paint. You just it's a night and day difference when your team plays the Jazz versus another team, because your offense has to completely change. And then with Aaron Donald, you can't double team him. You have to triple team him.
Yep.
So when 3 of your 5 offensive linemen have to block one guy, that kind of changes the way you have to run your offense, because whether it's a run play, pass play, anything in between, any screen, draw, whatever, he's going to impact it, whether he's making the tackle or not. He impacts every play because you can't block him one-on-one at all, or else you're dumb.
Mhm.
You're dumb if you double team him. You're probably still going to get beat, and then you at that point you're sending 3/5 of your offensive line at one guy.
And now you're playing 2-on-3.
Yeah,
if a team is running
you're
4 in
already at a
front,
disadvantage. So, and the fact that he has been this good for this long, like everyone knows who he is, everyone games plans for him, and so many guys pop for a year or two, because and then teams are like, okay, we're just going to send the house at you and stop you and let your team do it. He still puts up DPOY numbers year after year after year after being double teamed, triple teamed, quadruple teamed, like having them run the ball away from him, roll the quarterback away from him. He still puts up these great numbers.
yeah, and I would say that that's pretty similar to Rudy Gobert also, because we get a lot of voter fatigue, and we didn't want to vote for Gobert to be like defensive player of the year again, but here we are voting for him to be defensive player of the year again, because it's just kind of hard to ignore the fact that like he just changes the way that you have to play offense. And both players, I really feel like kind of like identify as those guys where it's like you got a game plan for them because they're so good at exactly what they do, and so everything you do has to be around avoiding those two.
Yeah, you can't. If you go into a game without like specifically singling that player out and being like, all right, we've got to figure out how to like score with this player in mind, you're screwed. And so both these guys have taken their respective, sports and changed them, because, how many great interior offensive linemen have come after Aaron Donald and are going to come because all these, young, players are modeling their game after them. How many guys, are coming to the NBA where like, okay, it's Rudy Gobert didn't start this resurgence, but there's a lot more like just traditional big centers coming to the NBA because they're like, okay, if I can block shots, play great defense, and then be a lob threat, I can still make it. I don't necessarily have to shoot threes. And both these guys have kind of changed their sports a little bit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I love this one. It's the DPOY category. DPOY category is exactly what it is.
They matched up perfectly. We were coming down our list like, okay, well that's an easy one.
Yeah,
that was like, all right, cool.
Exactly. So that one just worked.
Let's take a break from talking about people for a second. We've talked about fans. We've talked about coaches. We talked about players.
I've been tired of people for years.
Let's talk about places, iconic venues from each sport.
Mm-hmm.
And you NBA fans who listen to our podcast, there's a couple of places that come to mind. You've got Staples Center, you got the Boston Garden, but one is much better than all the others, and that is Madison Square Garden,
the Mecca,
the iconic basketball location. I mean, it's not any accident that when people retire, their Madison Square Garden stats is something that people talk about. Their iconic games at Madison Square Garden, because playing at the Garden is incredible. Just like in the NFL, playing at Lambeau Field, the history there is incredible. Two very different places, but when you play there, you're playing at history. You're playing, on the same field, the same court as all the other greats in your sport have before you, and it's a almost like religious experience being at those places.
So we talked about stadiums a lot going into this, and there's a lot of like great new stadiums in the NFL that are amazing stadiums, like Mercedes-Benz, like there's the new Raiders Stadium, there's obviously the LA SoFi, and yeah, there's the Brooklyn Stadium. Like there's so many great new stadiums, but I wanted to like focus on like the iconic old ones. When you hear it time and time again in both the NFL and the NBA, when guys show up to these stadiums, there is a sense of like, I have to bring my A game. I have to bring my best. And the funny part is the Knicks aren't even like good for the most part of it, but you see some of the greatest stat lines of some of the greatest players happen in Madison Square Garden all the time, because it's like they show up and they're like, I want to play my best at the best place. And that is the Mecca of basketball, which is Madison Square Garden. And you see that same kind of thing at Lambeau.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that like there are iconic NFL celebrations. You have like the spike, you have, a bunch of different things, but none of them really have a name. And then there's the Lambo Leap.
Yeah.
And when you think about the Lambo Leap, when a player jumps in to the stadium with the fans there, like that is incredible. The fact that the fans own the team, own the stadium, right? Incredible. The fact that that stadium has been so old and is like named after one of the coaching greats, the iconic coaching greats, is incredible.
Yeah.
It is just absolutely crazy to me that like both these stadiums have not only stood the test of time, but stayed as like, again, like religious as they already are.
Oh yeah, it really does. It really is. I mean, saying like it's a religious experience is it's kind of apt because there's a sense of like. Sorry, I'm burping from the Bud Light. That'll happen. But there's a sense of spirit that like happens within you when you are going. I've been to Madison Square Garden. It was awesome, amazing. You know what's also kind of funny is they're kind of like the dinkier of the stadiums. It's been a long time since they updated them and whatnot. But I am very excited to go and see Lambo in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
You and me, man.
So the Team Route podcast is taking a bit of a trip. The tall guy and I, along with Grill Daddy B, we're taking our religious experience and going over to Lambeau Field and watching a game there, which has been on my bucket list for a long time. And it again, those are two bucket list stadiums.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
If you're a sports fan, these are like, on the short list of like 5 or 6 stadiums that will immediately come to mind that are like what you have to see. I mean, there's others, and we can talk about those at some point. Maybe we'll do like a top stadiums podcast or something like that.
Oh, that'd be fun. That's a good idea.
But we have 2 more to get to here before we wrap up this podcast. So let's talk about the next one that we have, which are 2 just guys who imposed their will on their opponents. 2 guys that by the end of the game, if you're playing against them, you're a little beat up. You're a little sore. You got a few bruises. You might have you wake up the next morning like, ooh, walking's a little bit tougher than the last time I tried to walk. And those are 2 just behemoths for their position. And that is Derrick Henry of the Tennessee Titans and Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers.
I feel like for some people, when they hear that at first, like it's kind of like a weird combination with those 2, right? It's like, I mean, Derrick Henry isn't 7 feet tall, but it's like what they do in their respective sports is like Embiid like shows up and pretty much just physically dominates you all game. What does Derrick Henry do? The exact same thing.
I mean, there's not a running back in the NFL that loves running people over more than Derrick Henry. It's weird. It's almost like he seeks out contact.
Oh, yeah.
Like given the opportunity to like take the lane with no people and run a guy over for 3 more yards, he's taken that one just to like ruin people.
Just for fun.
And Joel Embiid is the same way. He will turn into you. He will bang on you. He will elbow you. He will, when you post him up, you're getting a forearm shiver to the back of the, kidney area a little bit. You're getting hit all over the place. Both these guys leave you battered and bruised after you play them.
Yeah. I mean, Derrick Henry is gigantic for a running back. Like you see him out there.
Off, gigantic for a human being.
Yeah, he dwarfs me, right?
Like just the average person he could eat for breakfast.
But he goes out there and he looks like a middle linebacker. Like that's like what his genuine size is. Like he should have been playing middle linebacker since middle school, not running back. But he just like was, I don't know, guess faster than everyone. Just like kept doing running back thing, and he runs through people every single game. I kind of think that he's the most fun like player, if not running like back in the entire NFL to watch.
Yeah, and both of them have like they're both big, brooding, run you over, sock you in the face type of players. But then the other thing that makes them work very well as a comparison is they both have a little bit of finesse game,
a little touch.
Derrick Henry has some speed. When he gets to the edge, he's gone. He's gonna run he's gonna run right by you. Like he's not slow. Like he could run you over, and he's got the power back. But he's not slow. He's got, the fact that guy has 2 90+ yard touchdowns, more than like, a lot of teams have.
It's a great point.
It shows like his game is not just raw power. And same with Joel Embiid. The guy can shoot threes. The guy has a little like dark fadeaway. The guy has a little bit of a mid-range game. They both have a little bit of finesse to their game to go with their raw power that kind of keeps you on your toes the whole time.
That is a great point. I didn't even think about like the Derrick Henry has multiple 90-yard runs. Like, yeah, because he's not just a power back. If he was just a power back, like he would just be a 3rd down goal line guy. But that's not who he is. Like he is a borderline MVP, one of the best running backs in the entire NFL. Like, there's a reason he's been like killing the rushing like yards record every year, like in the NFL. Like, the guy is amazing. And it's kind of the same thing with Joel Embiid. We didn't think that we would see a big, obviously Jokic won last year, but I think it's not far to say that if Embiid had not been hurt for as much as he would, he probably would have won MVP last year. And he would have been the big man to finally break that streak of having a big man win MVP. I would not be surprised to see him win MVP this year. And that is because he is not just a big, strong human that moves other gigantic humans out of the way to score. It's because he is a very, very good basketball player with a lot of touch.
Yeah, both are very skilled, and both are, got some finesse to go with their over like raw power. But both are super fun to watch. Let's move on to our last comparison here, which is two snakes in the grass.
I kind of love this one, honestly.
Two guys that cannot be trusted. And there's a reason we're ending with this one, because we think it is something that people don't necessarily talk about, but it's a comparison that's kind of like spot on. And that is the two guys that are either loved or hated. And most people generally hate them. And that is Kevin Durant and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, dude. It's weird. Both of them are known for having like very, very weird personal lives, right? Durant has got the whole burner account thing going on where he like spends more of his time roasting little kids and like protecting his image on Twitter. And Aaron Rodgers has the whole thing where like his family doesn't want to have Thanksgiving with him.
Imagine your parents being like, I could have a millionaire son, but he's such a dick that I hate him.
Yeah.
Like you have a son and you're like, man, I could have millions of dollars and be close to my son. But no, he sucks that much.
That takes a lot. That takes a lot.
And I still think Kevin Durant dwarfs him.
Yeah,
and
dude.
Just dickishness. Yeah.
Dickishness. Well, because the other part that we have to talk about is both of them are arguably the most skilled players to ever play their positions, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Kevin Durant is on pace to smash some scoring records, or at least he was until he lost a year for his Achilles. But the fact that he might be the most skilled scorer in the history of the NBA. I mean, the guy is 7 feet tall, handles like a guard, shoots like some of the best shooting guards of all time, blocks shots like some of the best centers of all time, and has like all the finesse, but yet all of like the skill of anybody that you could ever want. Like if you're, in 2K making your, prime perfect basketball player, you're making Kevin Durant. And then you have Aaron Rodgers.
I was going to say, who might be the exact same equivalent, where it's like if you're in Madden making your perfect quarterback, outside of the fact that he doesn't like to run that much.
I mean, the guy still scrambles.
Yeah.
He's one of the best scramblers of all time. Like maybe he doesn't run for a lot of yards, but his ability to move around in the pocket and then break, roll out one way or the other, make people miss in the backfield. He's underrated in that. And then he's got an absolute cannon.
Oh, yeah.
But he can put it on a rope and on a dime. He could, knock a water bottle cap off a water bottle if he wanted to.
At 100 yards, man. Yeah, that guy's crazy.
He is incredible. But the fact that he has multiple successful Hail Marys shows his accuracy and his just raw arm strength. Both are incredible athletes that are very good at what they do, yet are just kind of hard for fans to get behind.
They're just assholes, man. It's like, it's hard to be that good and everyone like in your sport collectively agree like, yeah, fuck this guy. Like nobody likes him. I don't like, it's like, it's hard to like Aaron Rodgers. It's hard to like Kevin Durant. They just keep doing things that you're like, okay, great, terrific. Like just move on. Like, I don't know. I just like, I get tired of both of them, but I love watching them play.
Both are exhausting off their court/field, and both are exhilarating on their court/field. Like both are just super fun to watch. And then you read about them on Twitter or Bleacher Report or ESPN or wherever. You're just like, man, why do I watch this guy? Like, why do I waste my time on this guy? He is exhausting.
And then you watch him play.
And then you're like, damn it, I'm roped in again.
You're just
and
so
it's just
damn
this vicious
good.
cycle of being like, man, you're fun to watch. Damn it, I hate you. Man, you're fun to watch. It's like going back to an ex.
Yeah.
It's like, damn it.
You said it right at the beginning. Like there are a couple snakes in the grass. They are two two of the most iconic athletes in their position, two of the greatest athletes in their position, and two of the hardest personalities to get around to. And it's fun to have another couple of guys that like are in the same part of their career where it's kind of like late prime.
It should be getting towards its ends,
but you don't
it's
know.
Not. I mean, Kevin Durant was a captain in the All-Star team. Aaron Rodgers won MVP. Like, both should be past their prime, yet they're not.
Yeah. And it's like, how long is this going to go for? How long do I have to watch this guy keep dominating in my favorite sport? You know, so I think that's a very, very fun one that people probably don't think about to finish off our podcast with.
Absolutely. Fun one to end on. And happy kickoff week, ladies and gentlemen. It is a fun time of the year. I mean, for us basketball fans, we take a little detour for a little while and buy into football for a couple weeks before the NBA season finally tips off. So we will be back with you guys next week for another really fun podcast. We've got a lot of fun stuff in the works. As always, follow us on our socials. We link them with every podcast, so their links are right there, so you can click on them nice and easy. Shout out to Bud Light, all you Bud Knights out there. Super fun. Mitch, putting on the foam finger. Go Steelers, baby.
You know what? You're not in our conference. Go Steelers right now. Hey, it looks like I'm just like wagging my finger at you.
Most importantly, we're ending on that. Go Steelers. Cheers.